and welcome today. I'm Eileen Roach, and I'm the founder of Designs in Machine Embroidery, and I'm thrilled to be here today and to have you join me and my guest, Reen Wilcoxson from Embroidery Garden. But look at this comment from Retha Ranke. She says, when I got my first embroidery machine, the very first design she purchased was from the Embroidery Garden. How cool is that? That's really cool. So we have, hi Sue Brown, good to see you here. Good to see you here. We have your small town charm to share in a little while. And Valerie from Missouri and Aim from the UK in Lincoln. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, we love to hear where you are watching from. So please sign in and tell us where you are. And but while you're doing that, I'm going to go right into welcoming our good friend Reen Wilcoxson from Embroidery Garden. Hi, Reen.
Hi, Eileen. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, I'm so thrilled that you accepted the invitation and that you're here with us today. And you are broadcasting today from Indiana, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So how many of you are familiar with Reen's work, and how many of you have made some of our In the Hoop projects? Give us a thumbs up or a heart or something so we can know just how much you love her like we do here. Her work is phenomenal. I won't say that she invented In the Hoop, but she most certainly perfected In the Hoop. Right, Reen?
I've been doing this for about 20 years now, so I've had a lot of experience in creating In the Hoop designs for sure.
You sure have. And, I've noticed your work over the years, you simplify the steps. Although the projects, get more and more advanced, it's amazing what we can do with our machines, but you've really mastered, the process. So you make it, user-friendly, and everybody really has success when they do your projects, which I think is the key.
I try to make them, easy and put them in a logical sequence when I design something.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, we have somebody watching from Italy, Francesca. Welcome. Thank you for watching from all the way across the very large pond. And Lynchburg, Virginia, she has some of your designs. Betty Carwile, how wonderful. Oh, and Tammy Madden says, too many to count. Okay, I get it. I get it. Well, on my computer, I have a folder, Embroidery Garden. So I could just simply open that and see how many are in there. And, it's a good thing it's not fabric, right? It would take up a whole wall. So
I have created a lot of designs.
Yes, you sure have. You sure have. And they're all fun. Let's see. Ginger says she has 3 notebook folders full of your directions. And, her comment about the instructions are very easy to follow is so true. And like I said previously, that's what makes the embroidery, it is easy, but it's also challenging. But Reen just breaks it down into simple steps so that you do have success. That's great.
You just got to follow the steps one by one.
Yes, absolutely. Don't think out of the box on this project, right? Really follow the steps because you have spent a lot of time thinking out of the box. Okay, so today's program is brought to you by our stabilizer line. All stabilizers are on sale this week, and you will get free shipping if you use that ship code of STB sale. So make sure you add that when you check out in the cart. And we're going to be talking about what kind of stabilizers and so forth you need for different In the Hoop projects. Reen has 8 projects that she's going to share with us today. And let's start. Well, I'm going to tell you what the 8 are, and then we're going to jump into them a little deeper. She's going to give you a tip on freestanding lace. And then she'll talk about In the Hoop color sorting. So color sorting In the Hoop designs. Should you or shouldn't you? Number 3, zippers, right? Zippers are what make these In the Hoop projects so cool, so wearable, so usable. And she has a great tip for that. Can you use a snap hoop monster? You betcha. And I'm going to show you how. Let's see. What else? Adding designs to Reen's already beautiful In the Hoop projects. Maybe you want to, maybe you don't. She's going to talk about when to do that and how to achieve the right placement. She'll also discuss her needle recommendations, which is pretty important on any embroidery project. And we'll talk about thread, because you can't do embroidery without thread. And finally, the finishing touch that you do on a bag on any In the Hoop project after you take it out of the hoop. So we have a lot to cover, right, Reen?
There is a lot to know about In the Hoop designs.
That's awesome. So Paula Horst just mentioned that she has shared this broadcast with her friends, and thank you for doing that. And if you have anybody else that's watching, you have friends that love to embroider and love Reen Wilcoxson, you might want to send them a share also, so they can catch today's program. So shall we get started, Reen?
I'm ready.
Okay. All righty. The first one is Reen's freestanding lace tip.
Okay, so I consider freestanding lace to be an In the Hoop project. Any In the Hoop design is one that you complete in the hoop, and when you're done with it and completely finished, you have an actual product to use. Like this pin that I'm wearing, this is freestanding lace. A zipper bag. It's something that's 3D that you can actually use, that you've made completely in the hoop of your embroidery machine. So one of the tips for freestanding lace, and I'm going to change my camera here so you can get a better view, is to use, I like to use on my freestanding lace 2 layers of sew and wash stabilizer from Dime. But when I hoop it, I like to use these T-pins. Now this is a tip I got from my friend. You can get T-pins at any sewing store. But what you want to do is you want to place the pins around the hoop through the stabilizer. And I'll go ahead and I'll just place one here. And you can see this is the inner hoop and this is the outer frame of the hoop. And I'm just going to place the pin in and push it down. I'm through the stabilizer, but the head of the pin is crossing over the front, the inner hoop and that outer hoop. And what this does is it keeps the stabilizer nice and tight. With freestanding lace designs, we know that they are stitch intensive. And if you have a lot of stitches pressing down on the stabilizer, it's going to cause it to move and shift. So my tip is to use these T-pins and place them all around the hoop to keep your stabilizer nice and tight, and that will help those registration lines to line up, to keep your satin stitch edge where it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. That's a great tip. So those pins eliminate that stabilizer creep. As you're stitching, that stabilizer pulls in. It's a natural tendency for both fabric and stabilizer to do that during the embroidery process. So, use the teeth pins in a pinch. I can tell you that these little flower heads, they work also. Okay, you just need something with a head, with some body that's going to stay outside of the frame. I also use them on my monster hoops because I use my monsters all the time. I even use them for freestanding lace. Most people say, oh no, you have to use a standard hoop. Well, I use the monster and I'll put these pins around the 4 edges and perfect lace. I love that. It's really awesome.
Oh, great. I didn't even think of that you could use it on the monster hoops. I didn't think of that. Great tip.
Absolutely. So I just thought I'd share this comment from Retha. One thing that she learned, you have to make sure that the stabilizer is really wash away.
Right. And you want to use the mesh type of stabilizer, not the plastic kind, to do freestanding lace.
Right, absolutely. And so our brand here is Sew and Wash, and that's a mesh type wash away stabilizer. It completely dissolves in water. We like to use a warm temp of water to dissolve that stabilizer. So that's our favorite, right? Okay, so next tip, color sorting. So Reen, you have a do and a don't, right?
Yeah, well, I definitely have a don't color sort. When you are stitching freestanding, or I'm sorry, in the hoop designs, they are designed to stitch in a certain order. And, if you color sort and you combine steps, then you're going to end up with a problem, because in the hoop designs definitely have to be stitched in a certain order. You can't, do one step before another in the instructions. And there are some machines out there that default to color sorting. So you definitely want to make sure color sorting is turned off on your machine and in your software. But, if you do that, one of my tips too is make sure to look at the instructions of a design. And if it says it has 10 steps, when you load it onto your machine, make sure there are 10 steps. If there are maybe 8, then something has gotten combined. And so don't start stitching until you figure that out.
Right. And I thought I would show you in software exactly what Reen is talking about. An In The Hoop project often has many colors, right? Many color stops. For instance, this is her crossbody bag, and it has 15 colors. Now, you probably only use 2 different colors of thread, but that machine is going to stop 15 times. And this is the area, this property, the color sequence over here in the right. She doesn't want you to change anything. When you have the ability in software to do that, like I could move, that first color, I could click on it and go to order and say, move it forward. And you don't want to do that. So follow Reen's advice. Open these designs. In fact, I'll just do Control Z and undo that. Follow Reen's advice and leave that design alone. Now we're going to talk about adding an element like a decorative flower or a monogram to a design. And we'll get to that. But anyway, you still don't mess with the color sorting, right, Reen?
Right. And you keep everything in order. When we do get to talking about adding a design, it will be added at a certain time in the design.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So our next tip is zippers.
Okay. So I've got a tip for installing zippers. And I kind of have a little demo here that I'm going to show you. I'm going to change my camera. And so in the hoop designs, basically, you'll have a placement line where it shows you where you're going to put your zipper for example, here in the hoop bag. So this is where the zipper would go. This would be the first step. It stitches directly on the stabilizer. I like to take a double-sided tape. It's just a 1/4-inch tape that is sticky on both sides. I'll just take a piece, just kind of eyeball it. And what you do is you stick it on the inside of those placement lines on both sides. You would peel off the paper so you're left with sticky. You do that on both sides. And then you can lay your zipper down and make sure that it is placed centered in the placement lines. You don't want your zipper to get crooked. And a lot of people like to tape over the zipper, which is fine. But I like doing it with this double-sided tape because it holds it down. If I don't like my position, I can lift it up and I can lay it back down again and get it perfect. And in the majority of my designs, the next step that comes along stitches the zipper down on both long edges, and then that secures it down so it's not going to move on you or shift on you. So I really like using that double-sided tape.
Right. Now, so that double-sided tape, you can stitch through it, and tell me it doesn't pull up with the needle through the zipper tab.
I haven't had any problems, using it. It's used in garments, in sewing, like to hold a hem up or to insert a zipper in, something that's sewn. So you can use it in your embroidery machine.
Yeah. So is there a specific brand that you use, Reen?
This was a really, really big roll that I got, and I don't have the packaging anymore, but you can get it at any sewing store or shop. Your local store is going to have it.
Okay. I know Clover makes one. Nancy Zeman had, it was branded under Nancy's name. I don't know if it still is, but, and we use that in bags an awful lot. So I guess it's similar to that, or maybe the same product, but you were lucky to get a big roll. It's hard to find a big roll.
I've had it for a while, but it was a huge roll when I got it.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. All right. So next up is Snap Hoop Monsters and In The Hoop projects. A lot of people think you can't use Snap Hoop Monster with an In The Hoop project. So let's go to the overhead cam. And one of the fears, I think, of using a Snap Hoop Monster with an In The Hoop project is that you are only hooping stabilizer. And that, can be a little tricky, right? Because There's not much between that metal bottom and the magnetic top. So I'm going to give you a tip for the stabilizer. This is our no-show mesh, and Reen often uses this for the base of her bags because it's, you know, permanent and lightweight, doesn't change the hand of the fabric. You're going to cut it larger than your hoop. You most certainly want to have at least an inch beyond the width of the hoop and an inch or two on the bottom. So then I take my magnetic top and I position it right next to that attachment. And I'm kind of eyeballing it so that the edge of the magnetic frame is, you know, parallel with the metal frame. And then I'm going to hold on to the stabilizer out here. I might give it a good smooth across that surface and then just hold on to it. I'm keeping my thumb pretty close to that metal frame, and then I'm going to drop it. And then because it's so lightweight and, you know, kind of slinky, I can pull it. But first, what we really want to do, we want to make sure that magnetic top is aligned with the bottom. So I stand the hoop up and I push it down, and I do the same thing on this side, horizontal. Now my edges are all aligned, and now I can take the time to pull on this stabilizer and make sure it's really flat and kind of tight like a drum. And now I don't have to worry about any flagging of the stabilizer in the center of the hoop. So I would be ready to stitch. The next thing would be one of the benefits of using a magnetic hoop is that it's flat and it makes trimming so easy. So here I can just trim right next to my stippling, and I'm just placing that applique blade over top and that's other scissor blade underneath, and I get a nice clean trim. I don't have any, you know, bulk here at the side that I have to worry about getting this scissor handle over. So it makes for a really nice trim on a flat hoop. Now, if I am, not if I am, but when I pull this off the machine, I'm going to transport it with that magnetic shield underneath, because you don't want to disturb the stabilizer or your In The Hoop project. So just use this as, you know, it's like a tray, right? If you were a waitress and you carry in the plates, you'd put it on that tray. So that's a good tip for Snap Hoop Monster. All right, let's see. Let's check some comments. Oh, Carolyn Haber says that Dritz makes a wash away wonder tape. That's cool. So I guess it's double-sided, Carolyn, right? I imagine, if that's what you are recommending. And let's see. And Diana Mullins Atkinson said she has never used it, never had it gum up the needle, but you could use a Teflon needle if you're concerned. That's a good one. Let's see. Jackie Cheek loves her snap hoops. Me too. Use them all the time. Okay. And Carolyn Haber has confirmed that it is double-sided. And so, Reen, I'm just going to walk over on the other side of the studio and grab a Janome hoop, because Ginger Fraser is a little frustrated. She wishes we would develop monster hoops for the Janome 15,000. And I'm going to show her why. So, Reen, why don't you do a tap dance?
All right. So are there any questions, anyone? Eileen was correct that I do use that stabilizer that she mentioned for all of my bags, because it is nice and soft, and it does keep the bags, you know, the way that I want them to be. If you wanted a firmer bag, you could definitely use something like maybe soft and stable or something like that to give a little bit more body. But when you're doing a smaller type bag, I love using that like poly mesh type of stabilizer. Marianne says that Steam Seam has 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch double-sided tape, so that would probably work too.
Yeah. So do you like a 1/4 inch, Reen? I guess that's.
I like a 1/4 inch, because if you start getting wider, it may interfere with when you unzip and zip the zipper up. So
another problem, right?
Yeah, the 1/4 inch is fine.
Yeah, because I think a zipper tape is 5/8 of an inch, and so boy, that's just a tiny little bit of clearance. That gets a little dangerous.
Right.
Okay, so Ginger, my friend who really wants a Janome 15,000, this is a Janome hoop. So as you can see, this is the attachment, right? Located in the back of the embroidery machine. And all of this surface here would have to be metal. Now, we've worked with Janome Japan on trying to develop a magnetic hoop that would work with their machines, but due to the weight of all of that mass, it just isn't possible. So sometimes you have to just accept no for an answer. It's hard to do, I know, because we always get what we want, but it's a bummer, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Can you please show? Oh, Diane, she wants to know, can you show the flower T-pins with the snap hoop? Sure, I can do that.
I want to see that too.
Okay, cool. I'll probably only have 3 flower head pins in that I can access right now. So I'll just show you. So I lift my hoop and I'm just holding on to that outer stabilizer. I do have a couple fingers on just the metal bottom. And then I place my T-pin or my flower head right next to that metal base. And it's going to, do the same thing as her T-pins. Let me get that into the camera view. I'll do that at the top. There we go. And so here, I'll lift that so you can see. So you can see the tip of it is coming out right there. And here's the head. And then I'll do the same thing on each side of the attachment. Okay, because you can't really do it where the attachment is. So I'll put 2 on this side and 1 on this side and then 1 at the bottom. And that's how I use them. It's that easy. Mm-hmm. And Becky Carwile, is there a magnetic hoop for the Husqvarna Viking Epic? I believe there is. If you go to dzgns.com and click on hoops, there's a compatibility chart there. You can click on Viking, and you can also find it that way. Okay, so Reen, our next tip is adding designs to In The Hoop projects.
So my designs and my instructions, I usually tell you when to add a design, when it needs to stitch, because again, in the hoop designs, you have to stitch in a certain order. So, too, if you add a design to another design and you just do it on your machine, it's going to end up at the bottom in the stitch order. And you have to stitch it, though, when the instructions tell you. So I think that Eileen's got some tips that she can show you on that. And, that's where the software comes in handy, too, because you have the ability to take whatever you've added, the monogram or another design, and move it to where it needs to be in the stitch order.
Right. So, okay, let's see. Hang on one second. This is when I get, this is when my team gets a little scared. What's she going to do next, right? Okay. So the sample that I'm using in under the camera is actually this design, which is just a simple eyeglass case design. So I've added my monogram, e.g. for Embroidery Garden, at the end of the design. But really, in Reen's instructions, she would tell me to add that right after the stippling. So I could just as easily go ahead and pop that into position. And then when I send that design to the machine, all of the order is correct. But if you're at the machine and you're stitching along and you're like, oh, I wish I had added, a design, I can show you how you can do that separately. So let's go to the overhead cam. And, I love to print templates, right? I mean, I'm known for that. I've been doing that for many, many years. So I could eyeball this on where to center. But we also have the Center It kit, which is a really handy tool for finding the center, mainly for quilt blocks. But, this is a rectangular, basically a quilt block, right? So what I would do is I have that blue target sticker. Now, they come with the Center It kit. And they are larger than my opening. You can see that opening right here. So this is sticky now. See? So that would actually stick to my quilt block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my monogram, my template, and I am aligning the crosshairs on the template with the crosshairs on the Center It kit. And that's going to stick together. I have to do that off camera, off on a flat surface. So just bear with me one moment while I do that. Okay, so now they are There we go, stuck together. As you can see, it's not going anywhere. So now all I have to do is make sure that the equal increments north and south are hitting the template. And I think that's supposed to be just about like that. And then center-wise, same equal increments right and left. And then I can just peel this off, take this to the machine, and I know that when I center my needle back under that, it's move that design in there, it's perfectly centered. Did that make any sense? Made sense to me.
And Caroline's asking, when you stipple and add a monogram, do you need to eliminate the stipple? That's a personal choice. I mean, you don't have to do quilting. You can embroider right over top of quilting if you want.
Yeah, that absolutely. That is a personal choice. Now, if you wanted to eliminate it, you would probably do that in software. And we most certainly could do that here in my program, but I'm not going to demo that right now. Some machines will allow you to do that. But all in all, there's no harm in having quilting underneath a pretty embroidery design or a monogram. And many times you're appliquing a monogram, right?
That's true.
So nobody knows what's underneath of it. Nobody knows.
And just to kind of add to what you just did, Eileen, sometimes, you know, I will already start an in the hoop design. So let's say, you know, I've got my zipper in, I've got my fabrics, and the design kind of looks like this now, this all on the front side of the hoop. And then I might get to this point and say, oh, darn, I wish I would have added a monogram to the bag. That's when your templates and your placement tools that you just showed would come in handy, because you have to take in the seam allowance. You have to take all that in when you want to get something centered correctly.
Absolutely.
So meaning if your zipper is here and it's already in, well, this seam allowance is already taken care of, and you know where the end of the bag will end up being. So that really helps to get that perfect placement. Because those seam allowances have to be taken into consideration.
Right. And you're not going to put it in the center of that design, because the center of that design would be too close to the zipper. You want to be in the center of that lower area. So, you know, anyway. Yeah. Okay. So we had a question. What was that paper that I used? So that's our print and stick target template paper. This stuff is awesome. I love this. It is, how many sheets? 20 sheets, 25 sheets. They're 8.5 by 11. You can print them on a laser printer or an inkjet, and they are two-sided. Well, kind of, it's two pieces of paper, right? So it has a sticky, the printable side is the rough side, and the protective paper side is the smooth side. So I'm going to see if I can separate this. So it goes through the printer. Well, however, you have to put either, you know, but this is the print side, whether that's up or down. Every printer seems to be different. And you'll print on this side, and then you'll peel them apart. And then I cut out my template paper doll style somewhat. And then when I store my template, I store it on the shiny side of the protective paper. And you really have to remember that, because if you put it on the matte side, it's very difficult to remove. So always remember, shiny, shiny, shiny. Okay? It's great stuff. Love this stuff. Use it all the time. Okay, and then somebody else wanted to know, what was the template? So the template was the Center It quilt kit. And maybe we have an image of that Sam our team can bring up on the screen. So let's see. There we go. Yeah, and Patty Roberts, she uses the print and stick for edge-to-edge quilting. It's fabulous for quilting, you know, because it's tacky and it's a pretty strong tack. So it lasts. You can reuse it. I've done a queen size quilt with just one template. I mean, that's how long it lasts. Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. So our next thing is needles. So why don't you talk about needles, and I'll go get the package for the Center It kit.
Okay, so I get asked this question quite a bit. What type of needle should I use for the In the Hoop designs? And it's basically, I use a 7511 needle for just about everything that I do. Sometimes I will bump up to an 8012 needle if I'm stitching something like cork or vinyl that's, a little thicker vinyl, or, like this glitter type of canvas. And when you're going through like a couple of layers, I may switch to an 80-12. But for everything else, I'm using a 75-11 needle. And the hoop designs don't require special needles. Sometimes I'll use an 80-12 just because I like the look of it. I mean, I like the detail. Maybe it's going to give a little bit bigger, hole. And I just kind of like that.
That's cool.
It all depends on what you're stitching.
Yeah, it does.
But 75-11 is basically what I use for everything.
Pretty much everything. Okay. So this is the Center It kit, and it comes with 5 different shapes: squares, circles, hexagons, 45-degree inch diamonds, and 60-degree diamonds. You get 3 of each of those shapes. And the reason why I gave you 3 in the package is because I know some of you only do 8-inch blocks, and some of you only do 12-inch blocks. So this gives you the freedom to cut down these templates for your most used sizes. And then, but I do suggest that you always keep 1 12-inches, and that will give you, down the road, if you need to cut it, you'll have that whole size. Or if you need a big one, you'll have that whole size. So pretty fun.
And Becky's asked about sharps and ballpoints. I didn't mention that, but I mainly use sharps because I'm mainly using, woven fabrics, quilting fabrics, cottons and things. I have done some of my bags in like cuddle fabric or something like that, and then I'll switch to a ballpoint. Just use whatever needle fits the fabric that you're stitching.
Yeah, okay, so this isn't really the topic that we're talking about, but maybe. Cindy Wardlaw says, how about needles for cardstock?
I've never really stitched on cardstock. Maybe, Eileen, you have some tips for that.
Yeah, so I usually use a fine needle, like 1175 or even a 60, because, the tinier the hole, the better. Paper shreds, and if those penetrations get too close together, you're going to have an open line and not really multiple pinpoint penetrations. And then, know that though, because it's paper, you would probably have to change your needle fairly often because, paper is wood pulp, and that's not so good with, metal, right? It will dull it fairly quickly. And then, McLean wants to know, what needle do you use for t-shirt embroidery? Well, for t-shirt embroidery, I use an 85-13, and I always use a ballpoint for sure on a t-shirt because it's a knit. And will there be a discount? There is a discount code for all of the stabilizers. Today's episode is sponsored by our stabilizer line, and that free ship code is on the ticker on the bottom of the screen there, STB sale. So there you have it. Okay. All right. We're up to threads. Oh, everybody's favorite, right, Reen?
Right. And, just don't stick with your same old, polyester threads, or, some of you might use rayon. Yeah, they're pretty and they're shiny, but there are other options. I recently started using some of Dime's matte finish threads, and they produce a really cool looking effect. And of course, there are their metallics, the King Star metallics, that I really love to use. And, so you can even mix your threads that you use, use some matte, use some shiny, mix it up. Just don't stay with the same threads all the time. You'll get a really different effects that you might really just love.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, here's Kathleen Larson saying, I can't have enough thread, with a big smiley face. I agree. I can't have enough thread either. And I do like the mix. I mean, that's what makes it really fun. So here is a bag that's been quilted in the metallic, our King Star metallic, and on this black portion, but yet on the print, that's just a 40 weight, our exquisite polyester thread, which works fabulously. But, the variegated threads are just as much fun. Gosh, they are just a blast to work with. So let me go ahead and show you some of those samples. Here's our sunset. And of course, it's made up of exquisite 40 weight thread colors. Specific colors are included in this variegated. So you can mix and match on a project so beautifully. Just add variegated, in maybe one area to accent that thread, and then do the body of the work in the solids. And here we have our denim blues, which goes with this, and our cotton candy, which I don't have a sample of, and then also this, I think this is berry, our berry. So they're just so much fun. And the metallics, oh my goodness, that's what I use to quilt this little, start of a eyeglass case, right? That's all the Kingstar metallic, not one thread break. That Kingstar, that's the metallic thread that you can really depend on. Boy, you don't need any special needle. You don't need any special setup. You just use it as you would a regular embroidery thread, and you will be thrilled with the process. Oh, and let's see. Diane Atkinson, she says that she adores the dye matte threads, which I didn't have here, and I should have. And she makes bridal veils, and she uses them for certain types of lace. Very nice, very nice. Love that. And let's see, can you use variegated on cut work linen guest house? Absolutely, you sure can. Now, I would suggest that you use a coordinate, and I'm going to go pick out that sunset, which isn't, probably what you would do on cut work, but maybe so. One of its solid colors is what I would use in the bobbin for that cut work, because if you put variegated thread in the needle and the bobbin, it's never going to match, right? There's no way to get it to match. So select a solid that's made up in that variegated and then put that on the back. I think you would be happy with that. Otherwise, I guess you can go with a traditional bobbin, because you're probably doing really tight satins. Maybe it won't be as visible. So
that's a great tip, though.
Yeah.
To use the same family of colors.
Right. Because you don't want this glaring white, stripe on the back of beautiful lace embroidery or something, right? That's frustrating. Right. And of course, that metallic thread, I mean, we put that in the bobbin all the time. Oh, I didn't on this little bag because I knew it wouldn't be visible. But often, all of our lace has the metallic in the bobbin also. Works beautifully. Yeah. Okay. And then finishing. It's all about finishing, right? That's what gives you the shape, the form, the function of the bag, what makes it look really great. So, Reen, what's your tip for that?
So, to finish a bag, after you have it all done, you've turned it, you've trimmed it, you've poked your corners out, it's time to give it a really nice press. And what I love to do, and I love to use, it's Dime's Totally Tubular Pressing Station. And, a lot of people use these who make bags, who machine sew them, and it's great for that, but it's also great for in the hoop bags. So what I like to do is, when I'm all done with the bag, I like to turn the pressing station up on its end, and it has these different boards, different sizes that come with it, so you can use them for different size bags. But for this, I think this was an 8x12 bag, I'll use the bigger boards. And what I like to do is open up the zipper, and I like to press this top seam. So I would just put it over top, get it kind of lined up. I can move it all the way over so that I'm close as I can be to the corner. And I just take my iron and just press it along the top there. Once I do that, I can move it over, press again, move it over, and press again. I like to do that on the bottom. I'll take the bag and then turn it over to the bottom. Do the same thing on the bottom seam. Just put it on there, press. And what it does is it's going to give your bag just a little bit of, dimension to it. Just a little bit, instead of just ironing it flat and having your bag be totally flat. You can also get in, use one of the smaller boards and do the exact same thing on the sides.
Yep, very nice, Reen. Yeah, I love how it does give form to the bag. We don't want really an envelope. We want a bag that appears that it's got some body, some dimension, and it's all in the pressing to achieve that for sure. Now, Reen, Retha Ranke had a very interesting question. When you do your In the Hoop projects, what thread do you use in the bobbin? Are you using a sewing thread? Are you using embroidery bobbin thread? What do you use? Oh,
excuse me.
She needs a glass of water. Okay, we'll let her take a glass of water. Let's see. Marianne Adams says she loves Reen's pin. Well, I'm pretty sure that pin is a beautiful lace embroidery design that is part of Embroidery Garden's lace collection that she has here with Dime. And boy, we love those flowers. They're all 3D, multiple layers, and they look just beautiful.
So going back to the bags, I do use just bobbin thread in the bags because you're not going to be seeing, bobbin thread anywhere. Mm. If you're doing an In the Hoop design that has a satin stitch edge, you'd want to use a matching bobbin.
Okay.
And I do use matching bobbins in my little pins and on the flowers that I make.
They're beautiful, just beautiful. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe everyone, you probably really enjoyed Reen's tips. I mean, wow, what a wealth of information you shared with everyone today, Reen. That's very gracious of you. I know that in your patterns, you have very clear, concise instructions that are so thorough that you're not going to have any questions there. You will also do some classes, you have in the past done in store, but today you're doing a lot of virtual. And that information can be found at embroiderygarden.com, right?
Yes.
Okay. You feeling a little better?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
It's hard. I know. It happens to me too. Okay. Well, Reen is kind enough to stay with us while we go through the Small Town Charm. We only have a couple to share. But as you know, or if you don't know, this is a year-long program that we're doing here at Dime. Every month, you can download a free Small Town Charm. And the Small Town Charm is a nod to American businesses in small towns because it's been a pretty difficult year for many of them. So we started in January with the quilt shop. We went to a bake shop, a woman's dress shop, a flower shop, a outdoor cafe with 2 stories, the town hall with a clock tower, and Scoops, which is home of the giant cone, as their sign says. And in August was the gazebo, and September saw the book nook. Because I was going to do a back to school thing, but I didn't know if everybody was really going to go back to school. So anyway, it's the book nook. And we found some of your charms, and we would love if you would share your charms on social media by using hashtag #DimeSewAlong, all one word. And Esther Hopland, look what she did. She has her book nook sitting like on the side of a pond. She's got a little frog there and some flowers and stems and so forth, looking just beautiful. So Joanne Wilson wanted to know, are they small town blocks still available? They are. And just so you know, they come in 2 sizes, 5x7 and 7x12. So feel free to help yourself to 1 or 2, either one, either size. You're welcome to all the months of the year, and the months will stay up until the end of January. And after January 2022, they will be retired. So if you want to get them, we suggest you do that now. And then Sue S. Brown is our good friend over at OML Embroidery. And she is doing a sew along every Saturday after a month, one Saturday a month, the Saturday after I reveal the Small Town Charm. Now, the Small Town Charm is revealed on the last Thursday of the month. 2 days later, Sue kicks off on YouTube and Facebook Live a sew along with the Small Town Charm of the current month. So that's a lot of fun. And Sue is actually making a whole town, and she's calling it Sueville, which is super fun. And it has a very bright, colorful flavor to all of her small town charms. And as you can see here, she's got the yellow book road, which I think is adorable. She put it not only on the awning, but also on the door. Aren't they fun, Reen?
Those are just adorable.
I know.
Just adorable.
They really are. People are having so much fun with them. You should see the creativity that people do all year. I mean, it just blows my mind. You know, the awning is a separate hooping. And early in the year, like, I don't know if it was January or February, but very early in the year, one of our participants, you know, showed a photo where she lifted the awning and it had an addict. Oh my gosh. That just put me over the top. And since then, people have gone on and on, and it's really super fun. Yeah. And so people really are saying, too cute. The frog is so cute. I agree.
They're just adorable.
Yeah, I know. Really fun. We have a lot of fun with them. So next week, is all about the stitch ripper. What do you do when you make mistakes and how to get, you know, keep it or toss it, right? So fix it or toss it, I should say. That's what we'll be talking about next week. But Reen, thanks so much for joining today. It was great to have you here.
Oh, thanks, Eileen. Thanks for inviting me again. I really appreciate it. And thanks for everyone for watching and asking all your great questions. I hope you learned a few things.
Great. And you can catch Reen over at her website at embroiderygarden.com and also connect with her on Facebook. She's very active on social media, and lots of people doing In The Hoop projects with Reen Wilcoxson. Bye for now.
Bye.